Breaking news, a tiny rule that shook the tech world. Just on Friday, China's Ministry of Commerce announced one of its most sweeping export restrictions ever. From now on, any product containing over 0.1% of certain rare earth materials sourced from China will require official approval before it can be exported. 0.1%. That's barely a trace amount, but its impact could ripple through the entire global tech industry. As Reuters put it, Beijing has effectively extended its export controls to cover 5 additional rare earth elements, materials that are critical for semiconductors, electric vehicles, and AI hardware. To put it simply, if a single screw in a chip machine, a motor magnet, or a data center cooling fan includes even a tiny bit of Chinese rare earth, that product now needs China's permission to leave the country. It sounds technical, but it's also strategic. And that's why investors, tech CEOs, and even diplomats are suddenly talking about rare earths again, the hidden core of modern industry. So why is this such a big deal? Because China isn't just the biggest producer of rare earth minerals, it's the only country that has mastered the full chain of refining and separation, the hardest and dirtiest part of the business. Mining rare earths is relatively easy. Refining them, separating a handful of usable elements from tons of toxic sludge, that's the real magic. Over the years, China built the world's most advanced refining ecosystem. In places like Baotou, in Inner Mongolia and Guangzhou, in the south, entire industrial cities grew around rare earth chemistry. Today, roughly 90% of the world's rare earth refining happens inside China. A former White House AI advisor once put it bluntly, "Refined rare earths are the foundation of modern civilization. Whoever controls them controls the future of technology." Which means that little 0.1% rule is not just a trade regulation, it's a geopolitical lever. The past, blood, pollution, and an industrial awakening. But this dominance didn't come cheap. China's rare earth story is also a story of sacrifice, environmental, economic, and human. Back in the 1980s and 90s, rare earths were so cheap they were called industrial MSG. Chinese mines sold them at rock-bottom prices. Small operators dug without limits, dumping chemical waste straight into rivers. Entire regions were scarred, poisoned water, barren land, even radioactive residues. While the West shut down its own dirty plants, in the name of green policies, China kept refining, learning, and scaling. And in doing so, it gained the one thing the others lost: experience. Then, around 2010, Beijing woke up. It realized this waste byproduct had become a strategic resource. That year, China dramatically cut its export quotas, sending shockwaves across global supply chains. Japan's factories stalled. U.S. defense contractors panicked. For the first time, the world saw what it meant to depend on China for the raw materials of modern life. Since then, Beijing has worked to clean up and consolidate the industry, closing small mines, introducing strict quotas, and investing in greener refining tech. It was a long and painful process, but it turned a once chaotic sector into a strategic fortress. The rule, a 0.1% choke point. Now that fortress is being put to use. China's new rule might look bureaucratic, but it's a powerful signal, a reminder that global tech still runs through Chinese soil and Chinese chemistry. The timing is no accident. With Washington tightening chip exports to China, Beijing is quietly showing it can hit back, not with tariffs, but with the minerals that make the chips possible. From AI servers to smartphones, from electric motors to quantum hardware, there's almost no part of modern technology untouched by rare earths. And here's the kicker: proving your product contains less than 0.1% Chinese material, almost impossible. Supply chains are too complex, materials too blended. So the rule, in practice, becomes a quiet form of leverage, one that doesn't need to be enforced to be felt. Some analysts call it economic nuclear deterrence. Others see it as a way for China to demand reciprocity. If you restrict my chips, I might restrict your magnets. Either way, it's a reminder. The battle for AI supremacy isn't fought only in code or data. It's also fought in minerals and mud. The West's countermove, a long road ahead. Of course, the U.S. and its allies aren't sitting still. They're racing to rebuild a rare earth supply chain that doesn't depend on China. New mines are opening in Australia and Canada. The U.S. is pouring billions into companies like MP Materials. Japan and the EU are funding projects in Vietnam and Greenland. But there's a catch. Building the mines is easy. Building the refineries, that's the nightmare. It takes years of chemical engineering know-how, mountains of capital, and the willingness to deal with toxic waste that few developed nations can stomach. Experts estimate it could take 5 to 10 years and hundreds of billions of dollars before the West has anything close to a self-sufficient supply chain. And even then, China's cost advantage and technical depth will remain hard to beat. As one industry insider said, "You can't just throw money at chemistry." The bigger picture, so what's really happening here isn't just a trade spat. It's part of a deeper global realignment, one where resources, not just ideas, shape power. For decades, China paid the price: polluted rivers, scarred landscapes, and underpriced exports. Now, it's finally using what it built, turning an environmental burden into a geopolitical asset. The message is subtle but clear. Innovation might be global, but dependence is local. And in a world chasing AI, electric cars, and green energy, those rare elements buried deep in the ground might just decide who leads the next industrial age.